I want to bring in now Gav Blaxberg, who I had the pleasure to meet. This is probably one of the smartest, most ambitious, another young stud that making me feel really good about the future here. Gav, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Lou, it's such a pleasure to be on here. I'm glad we got to spend some time in person this past week, and I'm excited to see everything that you're doing out here. This is very professional. I love it.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It's a high praise coming for you because if people don't know, you do about 40 hours a week of live streaming on X. You were the pioneer of X Spaces. Yeah, huge compliment. Let me ask you, because you've done that and you've amassed a huge following because you understand what people want to talk about. What are you seeing right now in the aftermath of Israel's attacks on Iran? What are people talking about? Where are you seeing opportunities as a result of that?
Absolutely. And people certainly are talking. And like you mentioned, we're very big on spaces. We're very big on live stream. And we did a show this morning where we were covering live trading. And there were a lot of people that were talking about things like oil, for example, right? Which had an interesting move this morning.
Yeah, very interesting.
Kind of retracing, right? What did you think of that retracement?
Look, it was funny to me. It looked like a lot of hedges got put on over the weekend. I mean, I'm in the oil and gas industry with my other job is at Prairie. The other thing, I think it showed that most people don't think that this is going to be a protracted battle between Iran and Israel, because otherwise they would know that the oil market's going to get supply constrained. So that was my read of it now, but that could always change overnight. But what did everyone else think? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, most of the people on my panel, I think in a similar way to you, which is the S&P 500 has bounced back from everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's the core focus in our area. It's bounced back from pandemics and world wars and so much more than that. And we're in a very unique situation here between Israel and Iran and the US's potential involvement within that, because we weren't so directly involved, but we were kind of getting pulled into the pieces. So the question was, how could this affect our economy? And I think that you saw that initial sell-off, right when the news came out.
Yep.
You saw the drop. I believe that this was happening on Thursday night around that time, where it's like, okay, something's happening here, and then into Friday. But the market really never freaked out. It just came back. And specifically, I think you saw, if anything, more of a boost for the names that would benefit from this than you saw a detraction from names that could get hurt by this. And the ones that I'm specifically referring to are defense contractors, right? And some of the pieces of oil. And within those defense contractors, I think it's funny sometimes our minds, I think sometimes I'm on Twitter so much that I think a little bit in Twitter memery. And so there's a very popular photo that goes around, and it's Robert De Niro. And he's in the Joker film, and he's like sneering. He's like, people are dying and you're laughing.
Right.
And in my mind, I saw Palantir starting to get sold off on Friday. And my mind was, there's a war going on in the Middle East and you're selling Palantir?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
It was like this mindset of like, I only see really upside kind of being created here. And I also think exactly what you were saying, and which is what the markets were saying, which is this is going to be short-lived. Iran was already calling for, we want to end this, we want to smooth things over with the US. I do believe that they're significantly outmatched right now as well within these areas, which is a big reason. It's hard to have a long-standing war when one side has significantly more ammo.
Think about it too. I mean, this is a strong departure from previous stances from Iran, right? I mean, we go back to the Obama administration, Biden administration, previous Republican administrations. I mean, we drew lines in the sand literally, and they were like, yep, not really worried about it. And this time, I mean, I couldn't believe the headline today. It's Iran really wants to end this. They're ready for talks. And you're like, this is 3-4 days in. I mean, and I put that in the context of, right, like the ongoing battle between Israel and Hamas, that lasted forever. Ukraine and Russia. I mean, these were things that they were entrenched. So I think that's the takeaway when you already see one side saying, yeah, we can't handle this much longer. We've got to capitulate. So. But I'm interested, what do you think about drone plays, right? So defense, do you think those moves in defense contractors and drone plays they get overextended and then pull back? It's a short-term boost, or do you see that as long-term demand creation?
I think that those are much, the opportunity for those is far beyond what we're seeing right here, right? That's going to continue going into wars far into the future. And drones, if you really think about it, it's robotics, right? And robotics is going to become a massive industry, whether people like it or not. I got my first smart robot walking around my home now. I had a company. I
saw that, man.
I posted a picture. It's freaking awesome. This thing's scanning my room with computer vision. It created a whole outline of my apartment, and now we can do all these different things. And robotics, it's just so natural to see that this is going to come in, because here's the thought process, right? It's saving time. Ultimately, anything that saves time, that's the most valuable commodity. And so drones, whether it's being used for war or for many other purposes, they're going to save a lot of time and manpower. And so I think that we're going to see a huge increase in those industries in the long term. Now, which player is the right one to bet on is the hard area, because you have drone companies that are super legacy, right? Patents, been involved in wars, but they've fallen a little bit behind. They don't have that most up-to-date technology. And then you see other plays where maybe like an ACHR, right? Like an Archer, where they're kind of entering these areas. And it's not that they're super legacy, but they have the best tech. And they're using it for different things, whether that's to be the Uber of the skies or other items within war. I do believe that there's a lot of potential within that industry. Just going back for a second to the rhetoric, Trump's kind of a funny guy with the way that his rhetoric goes. Sometimes when you see him lash out and he's saying, this has to end today, right? It's over. That's when it seems like it goes on for a little while. Yesterday, or even was earlier today, there was a quote from Trump saying, sometimes they just have to fight it out, right? Yeah. And now Iran's calling for the end. So it's like, okay, mixed messaging.
Yeah. Well, I always say it's, everyone wants to just overuse the cliche. It's the art of the deal, right? He is the king of misdirection, I think. And like he has other people in his administration like Scott Bessent and Lutnick that come in and kind of are actually the steady hand. But I think you're absolutely right. He tries to throw a decoy out there to see what the reaction is, and then he adjusts his strategy from there on how the markets react. I mean, we know he pays attention to the stock market. If the S&P 500 and the Dow were down 5% today at the open, I think his tune would have been way different than, let him fight it out like two, siblings that are battling in the backyard. But so I agree with you. Long term, the drone situation is difficult because you got to pick who's the winner. I think there's some compelling ETFs that can get you exposure to all those things. What other areas of the market are, and I know you work with a lot of different ETFs as well in terms of providing just education about them. What are some of the more innovative ETFs you've seen recently come to market?
I'll name a few. One of my favorites kind of capitalizes on everything that's happening nowadays, and that's BTGD. It's 50% Bitcoin, 50% gold, using simple leverage futures contract to bring that up so you get $1 of exposure to each. And for me, I'm looking at this saying, hey, we're coming up on July 4th. There's going to be a giant bill, very likely passed, and the debt ceiling raised to no end. And gold, we already saw gold, by the way, pump over the weekend a little bit, right when the news came out about Iran. And we're likely going to have another surge when the dollars, continue to print, and Bitcoin we know follows M2 money supply. Right, I see another $20,000, $30,000 upwards in this cycle. So to me, that's a very simple ETF that's very easy for people to grasp. It's not some complex, wild strategy, but it makes sense, right? And it's obviously performed very well. Funny enough, it's outperformed. If you look at the Scylla performance, it's outperformed Bitcoin and it's outperformed gold.
Oh, that's interesting. Inception. So it's a unique combo. It was funny too. Today I was reading the headlines how some of the altcoin founders are now selling or liquidating their altcoins to move into Bitcoin, which is, I believe, a recognition of the inevitable dominance. I mean, Bitcoin's already dominating, but they're kind of throwing their hands in saying, hey, this is the one crypto that's going to have the most value moving forward because you're seeing so many companies there. How do you respond to that? Because I know you do, for people that are unaware, you're running, 30, 40 plus hours a week of spaces that cover every category from crypto to Tesla to stocks to options. What are they saying in the crypto spaces? I mean, what's the expert opinion and insight from those investors and long-term holders in the crypto space? How do they see this transition?
There is a ton of demand for crypto conversation. We actually launched a second channel just for crypto conversations a couple of years ago. And the overall consensus that I see is people being drawn towards Bitcoin at the top. And it's almost like if you go back to 2020 when everyone was throwing things at the wall and you could buy any SPAC, right? And you would make all this money. And I think crypto went through a similar piece where there were meme coins and altcoins. And at the end of the day, people looked back over the last few years and they're like, the S&P 500 has really just outperformed all these things, right? If I just held it for the long-term period. And I think people see the same thing for Bitcoin right now, where they're just getting drawn into it from the crypto perspective. So it's almost like you have two camps. You have people that are Bitcoiners, and then you have people that are into crypto. And the Bitcoiners don't consider themselves into crypto, just Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's interesting. Folks, I'm here with Gav Blaxberg here, CEO and founder, former Goldman Sachs analyst that branched out and started his own thing. Love the entrepreneurial spirit. Join the conversation. If you got any questions or comments for Gav, he's way more interesting to me. I'd mentioned to you, he was also in the crypto space on Amazon Prime special. It was called Crypto Kings. Am I right, Gav?
That was the name? Crypto Nights.
Kings next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kings is next. Yeah. This is a 26-year-old gentleman that's accomplished more in his short life than I have in twice the time. But pleasure to have you here. Wanted to talk to you about how did you come about starting Wolf Financial? Because I would tell you, I've always been in tech, early adopter, visionary that sees over the horizon. You saw just a trend, a wave of retail investment interest and a need for education ahead of this boom that we've seen, right? COVID. So tell us about the genesis of Wolf. How did you know it was going to be so successful, and what's the critical gap in the market that you guys are filling?
Absolutely. Really hard to say I knew it was going to be successful. I kind of fell into this area of retail interest from my own interest, right? I was that person that really wanted to learn about investing, really wanted to learn about trading. And right when the pandemic hit and the stock market dropped heavily, I had some great influences on me. I was working at a private equity shop, and as the stock market is just falling, right? We had a circuit breaker day. I'm talking with people around the office who have a lot more experience than me. Are you selling? Are you freaking out? And no, they were buying more than they ever had been before. People are buying it hand over fist. And I'm like, okay, something's interesting here, because I'm looking online and everyone's freaking out and they're selling their stocks and we're hitting circuit breaker days. But the really smart people who I know who are investing tens of millions of dollars, they are all buying right now. So there's got to be some type of opportunity. And with that, my idea was simply to create an app that people could learn to invest and trade on a very simple basis, right? Take all the terminology, break it down. You can plug in any stock, find a game plan. And so that was the idea, was let's build that. And then as I was building that, it came about that we need users. Okay, well, how are we going to get users? We have to have a social media presence. And so I went on to social media and I started practicing what I was preaching, essentially, and preaching what I was practicing by just talking about investing and running interviews and having conversations, and tons of people started gravitating towards that. And I realized over the next several months, there is a much bigger opportunity here on social media than there is to try to move all these people off platform to another app. And so I locked in. I ended up, as you mentioned, becoming the first official beta tester for Spaces, ended up getting a 3-month contract to work for Twitter, went full time on that, and then just launched into hosting 40 hours a week. Didn't really know exactly if it was going to work. Hadn't made any money doing it for about 1.5 years. And the next thing you know, there's tons of people flocking to it and a lot of people who saw the vision.
Yeah, so it's a committed entrepreneurial endeavor. I'm just curious. So I think you're right. You said one thing where it was, instead of trying to get them off platform, go where they're already in community. So how do you look at things? Because I think the total disruptions happen where you have people congregating on X and Discord, on Reddit, which is a change, right? Because Wall Street is used to being the smart money and the dumb money. Most retail trading was at best accounting for like 10 to 12% of volume. Now it's upwards of 30 to 40% some days in the market. What do you think Wall Street hasn't figured out yet about this retail army? I'm going to call it what it is, right? There's a lot more power in 1 million or 10 million people buying 100 or 1,000 shares than a single hedge fund buying 1 million shares. What do you think's next? What is Wall Street missing?
Great question. I do believe that many of them are catching on now and they're starting to actually survey that data and utilize it. But for a long time, it's exactly what you said. In their mind, it was such a non-factor that it didn't make any sense to pay attention to it, right? Yeah. Why would I ever look at something that's only going to make up 5-10% of the overall picture? They didn't realize it until they were already at 25-30%, right? And so there was a gap in between those two things happening where retail created scenarios like GME and AMC and Kodak, right? Moment.
Bring back the COVID days. We were reminiscent about that in Chicago, man. That beginning of COVID was awesome. 2022, not so awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the biggest thing that they're missing from Wall Street is that there's a huge swath of retail that has moved into self-directing their own portfolios in a very different way than you saw before. And the way that they invest is very different than financial advisors were investing their money previously. And that's created a whole new regimen of habits inside the market. And I think that's the key that's missing.
Yeah, and I'd argue too, I think financial advisors are getting squeezed out. Like if I look at RIAs and financial advisors, look, and I came from this industry, so I understand it, but also understand that there's a lot of people out, men and women, that add tremendous value. But the average advisor is really, it's hard for them to differentiate now, right? What are they offering? They're offering the kind of same product portfolio, product lineup, and they're just trying to sell their relationship and knowledge. Which brings me to kind of where that got disrupted even more. We talked about Autopilot in the first segment here. I know that you have 3 active portfolios on Autopilot. Why don't you take a minute and just explain to people in your words what Autopilot is, and then go ahead and share your success, because I think it's pretty remarkable in the short time that you've been there putting these portfolios together.
Absolutely. And I do have some restrictions on how I'm allowed to talk and explain about these things, but essentially, you're investing alongside another person. And the strategies came originally from people wanting to copy trade Nancy Pelosi. So when Pelosi makes a move, they wanted that same move made in their portfolio. They didn't want to have to press a button or approve or review anything. They just
Right.
want to say, hey, I want to take $10,000 and perfectly mirror her portfolio. And every time she makes a change, and as soon as the public knows about it, I want that change made in mine. That was the original concept, and it worked very well. They've, I believe, pulled in over $500 million that is copy trading Nancy Pelosi, and they spread that onto other portfolios. In fact, one of the best performing portfolios this year is the inverse Jim Cramer, which they also run on there.
We
I'm
could
not
have a
kidding.
whole conversation about that, man.
It's up
uh,
over 30% year to date.
yeah, it's
And
insane. He's like the best contrarian indicator out there.
it's a little insane. It's a little crazy, but it is working. And within that, they've now moved on to the next level, which is, okay, well, with politicians, there's a lot of aura and a lot of star power, but the trades are delayed, right? It's not a perfect replication, and they don't exactly engage with their audience, and they're never going to go and promote it for Autopilot. And they found this kind of perfect niche with what they call pilots, which are people like myself who already been talking about investing for several years on social media, have proven track records and results, right? I have public portfolios. People can go and look at my portfolios with years of track record. One of my favorite ones is on Blossom Social right now. It's up about 85% year to date. At the moment, it's completely public, transparent. I literally posted every single day for people to see the holdings and the details. And so on Autopilot, I went on and I was able to create 3 different thematic portfolios, and people can now invest alongside them in real time, meaning when they first choose to, first of all, if anybody wants to go see these, I'm not gatekeeping at all. You can
You can see
completely
everything, right?
for free at any time what are the holdings are. And if you just want to copy them, say, hey, I want to put $1,000 behind this, you can do that for free.
Yeah.
If you want it to make a trade every time that I make a change, then you can pay a subscription. It's a dollar or less per day, basically. It's not a high cost with these pieces. And so this is kind of the first time that I'm opening up to my audience, even the ability to subscribe to anything of mine and really, receive that value back. So for me, it's pretty exciting. And the response was way more than I thought it was going to be. I believe we hit 1 million AUM before I even really started talking about this
Right.
and promoting it to the public. We're now over 2.5 million AUM. That's, looking at these things. And my most popular portfolio, we were talking about crypto, is my crypto bull portfolio. And I think there were a lot of people that got bullish on crypto, and they were like, well, what am I buying besides Bitcoin?
Well,
And so
listen,
I created this portfolio to show them.
I think it's perfect, right? Because there's always so much distrust on Wall Street, right? The Main Street distrusts the advice you get from Wall Street because it's usually a fee grab. What you're talking about is you took the time to build a rapport with people. They knew your track record, you were transparent, and then you gave them an on-ramp to trade with you. So I think it's a perfect solution. I encourage people, go check out Autopilot, go check out the Wolf Financial and Gav's portfolios there. When you pull them up, you're going to be impressed like I was when we were sitting in Chicago and you showed them to me. How often are you trading these portfolios? I mean, what's the kind of turnover that people can expect in terms of the portfolios?
It's not going to be daily. That's not my goal here. I'm not trying to make a ton of moves inside of these. Typically, I've said to people, there's going to be changes at least at the minimum quarterly. But if I see opportunities more often than that, I'll go ahead and make changes. For example, I made a trade in there today, in fact, just based on what I was seeing in the market. And so again, for people that weren't subscribed, that wouldn't have happened in theirs. They're still on the old portfolio. So something to go look at. But yes, it's going to be at least once a quarter, maybe multiple times a quarter, but could be more than that.
Yeah, I love it. It's thematic, it's adjusted, it's dynamic, and it's kind of set it and forget it and follow Gav. So listen, man, I know this won't be our last conversation together. I want to thank you for your time on such short notice. I'm intrigued by all that you're doing and looking forward to be part of some of it along the way, and look forward to having you back again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate you as well. It was really a pleasure getting to watch you in action at the conference, and I definitely encourage everyone to follow along because your journey's just getting started.
I appreciate it, man. It's not normal then you have to educate people for an hour and a half each day. I thought I might not have enough content, but lo and behold, as you know well, there's a lot of stuff stored in our brain from all those experiences. So it was a good environment to do it. Great group of people. So if there's anyone here that was with us at Traders Paradise in Chicago, thank you for joining us here. Thank you for joining us there, giving us your trust, your confidence, and support. Gav, thank you again for joining, and we're going to take a pause for a word from one of our sponsors.
Thanks, Lou.